Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nick Kroll Show. This week, I have Megan Lee here, host of the At Least I'm Not Hungover podcast. We've been kind of friends for a long time now. I've stumbled across her podcast the other day, wanted to have her on the show, give her podcast a little more exposure and just kind of hear her story. So, Megan, how's it going today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So what started this sober journey? Because obviously you become sober before you have a podcast.
Yeah.
You talk about being sober. So what started that?
Well, to be fair, I feel like so I stopped drinking. My sober date is October 1st of 2020. So I'm still pretty like new into this like world. But I feel like there's no time too soon or too late to talk about it, and there's no audience too big or too small. So like, I guess just to kind of answer your first question, like, why did I stop drinking? Did you ask me that? Whatever,
Yes.
we'll get into it. So I started drinking when I was like, I don't know, in school, like 14, like I was really young. And it wasn't anything crazy at first, but like I felt like I surrounded myself with people. Like I really just like, I feel like in high school, like, you know how our high school was. Like I just felt like I didn't like, I feel like I got along with everybody, but I didn't like fit into like I didn't have like my people or like my friend group that like I felt like were my people. And like I saw that with everyone. So I kind of just like, I wanted those people, and those people for me were like people who like partied and stuff. And I just felt like, oh, like these people like being around me, and like I'm fun when I drink. So like, whatever. So then like that just kind of like started all of that. And then I went to a party school for college, and it was just like, if you weren't drinking, like what the fuck were you doing? So like every weekday there were like different deals at the bars, and there was like cheap drinks for like Tuesdays and like whatever. So yeah, it just kind of like spiraled. And then I got to a point where like my hangovers were really, really bad, which kind of brought the name of like, At Least I'm Not Hungover for the podcast. Like it got to a point where, you know, I started having like my hangovers that I feel like normal 21 and like early 20s people would have when I was like 16 or 17, right? So then by the time I was like going out with people, I would have to recover for like 2 or 3 days. And it was like, what kind of life is that? Like, I
But
couldn't
meanwhile,
like,
you're drinking almost every day, like during the week at college and then on the weekends.
more often than not, yes, mostly in like the first 2 years of college. And then by like, I think junior, I don't really know. It was a lot. It was excessive. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, like I would like go out, and or even if it was just like drinking at home with like my roommates, and then I would take at least the whole next day to recover, like throwing up all day, like not being able to even keep like Advil down to get rid of my headache.
Wow.
And then as soon as I felt better, even if it was like 8:30 p.m., I would just do it all over again.
Oh
Because
my
like
God. So
that's
there
like
was
what
really
you
no such
did.
thing as like moderation. It was just, I'm going to get loaded every time I
Oh
drink.
yeah. Oh yeah. And it was just like that's the college culture, right? Like that's just like what people do, like especially when
It's
you're at
almost
a
a
party
trap.
school.
Like you're weird if you don't drink. I still hear it. Like I'm still weird
Yeah.
because I don't drink.
Yeah. And like I personally call Keene, which is where I went to school. I don't know if I already said that, but I call it a black hole because, and everybody that I know that went to Keene too, they're like, yeah, because you just like get sucked into this life. And Keene is like, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like there's not any big surrounding like cities or anything around it.
So
And it's like,
did you enjoy being drunk, or did you enjoy the other parts of it? Like, was it the taste? Like, what was it that made you keep coming back for it? Because I feel like a lot of the times people really don't even like to drink. They just do it because they feel like they fit in while they're drinking, or it brings
yeah,
them into a different crowd.
yeah. And I feel like that's like how I was talking about like back in high school, that's kind of like where I got into it, was just like the I don't want to call it lifestyle, but like just like the environment, like feeling like people enjoyed my company, and like getting this like, excuse me, um, I don't know, like other persona almost, where it's like you just feel like more outgoing and you like connect with people over those drunk conversations that you have that like literally don't make any sense. Um, you know, like the classic like girls running into other girls in the bathroom and like becoming best friends, like shit like that, that it's just like it's a funny story that probably would never happen if you weren't drinking. But I got to a point where it's just like I don't need those surface level interactions anymore. And like I don't want it. I want no part of it. Like I don't need that. If I want to just be like, oh, howdy do, like I don't need to fucking drink to do that.
That
I can
was
be, you know.
that was I mean my point every time. I like people would say exactly that. They'd be like, oh well, I'm more social. Oh, I make memories while I'm drunk. I'm like, I'm pretty social
I
too. I don't need
don't.
alcohol to like go talk to somebody. And I understand there's a
Yeah.
difference with that. Like I was married pretty young. I've been married since I was 21 and or no, I was 20. My wife was 21. So we got married pretty
God.
young and I had a lot of my like guy friends. They were like, oh, well, you're married. Like it's different. Like you don't need to go to a bar to like meet a girl. And I was like, oh, maybe you're right. Like, I don't know. I can't weigh in there, but like my wife and I
Yeah.
met without being drunk. Like,
Yeah.
so I always hear the reasons why people drink, and I'm never able to really wrap my head around them. Like from at least my point of view, like I get like the more of the addict side of it because like
Yeah.
they kind of fall into like you were saying almost like a trap, and that's a little different. I've had a couple different addicts on the show that have talked about what they've been through, and it's interesting to hear it like from that perspective, especially when you're kind of in that rock bottom. And
Yeah.
I guess that brings me to another question for you. Like, did you have kind of a rock bottom moment?
So here's the thing too, like you just brought up like how we're just talking about like the party environment versus like being an addict or like having a problem in that respect. So I still don't know, and I talked about this like in one of my first episodes too, like I don't know what terminology to use for myself. Like I don't when I look back, like I don't consider my behaviors or like how my relationship with alcohol as like an alcoholic or like an addict, but I felt like I was very much so like pushing that limit and like teetering a little bit. um I forget what you
Person
asked me.
Personally, I don't like I don't know what the dictionary or the professional definition would be of an
Yeah.
addict, but if I personally, and again, take my personal opinion with a grain of salt, but
Hmm.
I think if you can't like stop at any given moment for at least 30 days, then I would consider that like an addict. Like I'd be like, okay, yeah, you probably have a problem if you can't go 30 days without drinking like that.
Yeah,
And I
that's
feel
a
like there's
good.
a lot of people that can't do that, but wouldn't consider themselves an addict. And I mean, listen, maybe you're right to not
Yeah.
like consider yourself an addict at that point. Maybe you just really enjoy the taste. But if you want to be able to stop for 30 days and can't, I don't know. I feel like you're probably an addict at that point. You need to see like a little bit more help. But again, I'm
Yeah.
not a friggin' professional. I'm not a doctor. Like
Yeah,
what
I
I
never
think.
like thought about it in that way, but I feel like that's a good point. I actually I had an assignment in college, and I was a psych major, right? So there was some class, and like one of my assignments was to like choose some behavior in your life that you want to change. And the assignment was, I don't even know if it was 30 days or if it was like just 3 weeks. Like it was a pretty short amount of time. And mine was drinking. And I remember I had a Twitter at the time, and I remember tweeting about it and being like, didn't go 48 hours. Like couldn't even do 2 fucking days. So I
So,
guess, I don't
and I
know.
guess there's a difference in couldn't and didn't want to, right? Like, how bad
Yeah.
did you want to do it versus like, could you really not do it? Was it kind of one of those things where like, hey, we're going out tonight. Like, you want to come? You're like, I'm not supposed to, but fuck it. Yeah, I'll come.
Yeah. It was definitely like a fuck it thing. Like I was just like, I'm gonna go out with my friends. But like deep down, I wanted it, but like I didn't have it in me to be like,
Didn't have a
no,
good
I'm
reason
good.
why.
Yeah, like I didn't have like a good like having it be for like an assignment wasn't enough for me. Like I was
Mm.
just like, nah, that doesn't matter. I'll just like I'll cheat the assignment. Like I'll just like say that I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was there a rock
Um,
bottom for you? Like, was there a moment where you were like, okay, yeah, this is it?
um, every time I was hungover. So like literally every day. But if I wanted to pinpoint it, I guess a little bit, because literally every single time that I was like having like 2-day hangovers, and I can't even put it into words. Like when people are hungover, they're like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. But like I have a video from one of the last days I drank in September of last year. And I'm laying in my bed and I like, my hand is like putting pressure on my forehead like this. And I like took a Snapchat and I literally, my voice was just like so low. I couldn't even open my eyes. And I was like, if I move from this exact position, I'm going to get sick, because anytime I moved like an inch, I would like physically get ill. And like, that's how it was every single time I got hungover. And for some reason that like one time was like, it was just it for me. Like, I was like, I'm done. So it wasn't anything like rock bottom it was just like, I'm fucking done. Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like, I'm over it. I'm
Yeah.
almost 25. Like, I'm over it.
And that became your reason why, essentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I listened to actually your episode. It was with Giselle.
Mhm.
I don't know when that came out, but I feel like I remember I listened to it this morning actually. And I just remember part of that conversation was like finding your why, I think, for, I don't remember what the conversation was about, but like, that's something that I go through in my head often too, is like, okay, why do I want to continue this? Why? And not even just when it comes to staying sober, but like everything in my life. I'm like, okay, why? Bigger picture. Why am I doing this?
And I feel like that's such a great topic, is the bigger picture. Something
Yeah.
I go wild about. I'm already getting amped up because I know what's coming. Is the people just don't think about the bigger picture. It's always just so like, what's right in front of me? What's right in front of me? What can I do? Like, oh my God, like it doesn't matter what's going to happen. It's just the instant gratification. And it's so much easier to say, oh, I'll just drink today. Oh, I'll just drink tomorrow. Oh, whatever. Yeah, no, I'll stop after tomorrow. I'll stop after
Like
tomorrow.
there's always a reason to like continue, but it's
Oh my
like,
God.
like it's a holiday or it's somebody's birthday or it's Friday or it's Tuesday. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. And it's just, I could go, I've gone down this rant so many times. I won't do it again, but yeah, it's just crazy. Like the instant gratification drives me absolutely bananas, because people will say like, oh, I don't even know why I do it anymore. It's like, then stop, like you're not addicted. At least we don't think you're addicted right now. You say you're not.
Yeah.
So just stop. And they can't. They're like, oh, well, it's fun. It's this, it's that. It's like, then don't complain about it. It's like they're playing both sides the whole time. And I stopped drinking because I didn't ever see the point. Like, I never really drank heavily ever. I mean, I've been wasted a few times, like probably a handful of times in my entire life. I've actually been like drunk. I've never blacked out, anything like that. And I just like would casually drink.
No, I'm just kidding.
What's that?
Said you're missing out.
I see. That's the thing. I really didn't feel like I was, because I was still at
good.
the same parties. I was still like around my friends, and they were all drunk. The next day, they felt like shit. And I think the thing that really kind of saved me was going to the gym. Like if I drank, I would feel like shit, and I wouldn't go to the gym, or I'd have a terrible workout. And that was something that like really mattered to me. Still matters to me a lot. And I kind of slowly stopped drinking more and more. And when I say slowly stop drinking, I mean, instead of getting drunk like 4 times a year, I got drunk like twice a year. And then it went to like once a year. And then it went to like a couple beers every like 5 months. I'd have like 2 Coronas, And then one day I was just like, it was literally the day after we brought Mozzie home, my golden retriever. I was just sitting on the couch with my wife, a couple friends, and I had a Corona in my hand, and it just hit me like, what is the fucking point? Why do I have this thing in my hand right now? Like, to fit in my own house, like to be social? No. Like, what is the reason I'm even doing this? And from there on, I just stopped. I was like, I looked at my wife the next morning, not hungover or anything, so I had 2, and I was like, I'm just not going to drink ever again. And she was like, okay. Like, she kind of,
all right.
like, she doesn't care. She doesn't really drink often either, but it was just kind of one of those moments. Just like, what am I even doing right now? There's no point to this.
See, I feel like that thought process that you just described, I've had that for years, like multiple times a week. Like, I was like, why am I even doing this? And that's why I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that like I had a problem, or if it was just like the social settings that I was in, that like it just sort of became like a habit, I guess, of like how often I was drinking, or just like whatever. But like, it literally took me years of saying that, like, why am I even doing this? And then hours later, just being like, fuck it. I don't know, like that day in September, I just like woke up and was like,
Never
I
again.
guess I'm done. And
Yeah.
that's a thing too. Like the never again is like hard for me because I'm like, I don't know if it's like forever. That's like the goal, but I don't I don't know. I would feel so like guilty and just like hard on myself if I say I'm never gonna do something and then I do it. It's just like, oh Meg, what the fuck? But
See, that
you
almost,
know,
I almost like that, like never again mentality, because then you're kind of holding yourself accountable. And that's something I'm
yeah,
like also really big on. It's like the self accountability of,
yeah,
hey, you said you weren't going to drink again. And here you are 4 years later or 4 months later, whatever it may be, drinking.
mm-hmm,
Like, what happened to that? And like,
yeah,
there's always the new information comes out, you learn something, or like your life changes, and people change their minds all the time. But like, when you
right,
kind of say like, hey, never again, like, I don't know, I feel like you should mean that most of the time. Like,
yeah,
you can't just you can't just say anything anytime and then change your mind every single day. Like, it happens from time
yeah,
to time because you learn something new. Like, that's something I learned, because I used to say
yeah,
like, I've been very opinionated for a while. My opinion has changed like multiple times. I became a lot more open-minded as I got older. But I used to
mm-hmm,
say like, no, I will never own this, or I will never do that. And then as I got older, I was like, well, that's actually kind of like good for you, or that's beneficial, or no, that's really cool now. Like, they changed the model of this. And
mm-hmm,
it's like, but I said I would never do it, so I'm not going to do it. And like, I realized I was just kind of missing out on stuff. So I started
yeah,
to think more of what my never agains would be.
yeah. You said something. You said something earlier that I wanted to like touch on. Um, and it falls into this same like topic. I think you were talking about come on, Meg. Okay, like the bigger picture and like the
Instant
do you know what I'm
gratification.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Um, you're talking about that and then like how you have, you know, you've always been like into the gym or whatever, and then like or fitness, and then having you know, drinking or whatever would like affect that the next day. I felt like that was something that I didn't have. Um like it wasn't, I don't want to like, it wasn't like a passion of mine, or like I wasn't super into like, I didn't have like any sport that I liked, or I wasn't like super into like working out or lifting or running or doing like anything until like more recently in my life.
Mhm.
But like it wasn't like I didn't have something to be like when I wake up feeling like shit or whatever, it's like negatively affecting that thing that I love, because like I didn't have a thing that I loved, if that makes
Yeah.
any
It
sense.
was
So
just
it
another
wasn't like
day.
a, yeah, like it wasn't like a oh well, I'm gonna like, this isn't gonna go great for me today because I'm hungover. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm hungover and I'm gonna do it again later. You know what I mean? So like,
I got to recover for the next 12 hours.
yep, yep. So I don't know. I feel like um that probably played into it. Like I didn't love anything. So you know, there was no why for me at that time to
Yeah.
like change anything, you
And
know.
I think that's something else that's like so important too, is everybody's going to have a different why, but
Yeah.
the why of fitness is, I mean, I say this to like my clients and stuff that I train, I say this to people all the time. Like, if you have a problem, I believe the gym can solve it in one way or another, because the discipline that you learn, like, I think discipline is the greatest gift that anybody can have in this world.
Mhm.
And the discipline that you can learn from trying to be healthy and being successfully healthy is incredible. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
almost, it's just a completely different mindset, and the confidence that you build from it. You really feel like you can do anything at that point. So when it comes to something like quitting drinking, it's like, okay, no problem. I can do that now. Or
Hmm.
whatever it may be, like, you're like, oh yeah, no, I can do that now, and
Yeah.
it's not like an arrogance, it's just a belief in yourself and a confidence in yourself, like, hey, I've done this, I've done that, and yeah, I can do this now too. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
the fitness was something that I always encourage anybody to do, and try to get as many people to do as possible, because it's so life changing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like I just said, like that wasn't something that was really a part of my life until like recently. And I say recently, like little over a year ago, probably like a year and a half ago at this point, I was like obsessed, like loved working out, loved the way it made me feel. And I sort of was in a spot where I was like not drinking as much. So it was a little bit easier for me. And then Corona hit, and I was just like, for some reason, I took the, I'm surprised. I took the more like, I would literally work out all day. Like I had nothing to fucking do. So I would wake up and I would like do yoga. And then like, you know, it was almost summertime. It was nice out. So I'd like run outside, or at home I have like a treadmill, and then I would find like HIIT workouts to do like in the driveway with my sister. And then it was like, I would do a nighttime. Like I was like constantly, which is a bit excessive, but given last year, it was like, what else was I going to do?
Yeah.
And, I go through like phases with it. And at first I had like, and when you were talking with Giselle, you guys were talking about, the conversation was more so about like dieting, but like, burning out, like going too hard for like too fast and then getting like a burnout.
Yep.
And that's what I would do with like working out. I didn't find my like groove. I would just be like, I have to go to the gym every day at this time for this amount of time. And then after like 3 weeks, I'd be like, I can't. And then I would take like months off. And then I would do it again where I would go hard for like a month and then take like 2 months off.
Yep.
And then I kind of got to this like groove where it's like, okay, I don't have to go 7 days a week. I can do like 4 to 5. Everything will be fine. And just like move your body when you feel like listen to your body, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I feel like it's been a ride for me to figure that out.
Yeah, I am very big on building something sustainable. Like if I take someone in that's never worked out before, which is my favorite person to like train because it's just more fun that way. You can kind of
canvas.
Yeah, exactly. There's no bad techniques. There's no
Mm-hmm.
bad information. There's just a fresh start. And I personally like that a lot. And I start off and it's so simple. Like the things that we'll do like a workout, but it'll be quick. It'll be like in and out, you know, and they're like, oh, that's it. It's like, yes, that's it this week. And the next week, it's just a little bit more. And then the next week, it's a little bit more. And then we'll start to throw some diet in there. And that just builds something sustainable. And it like, I think that is the best, like long-term success. And again, what we were talking about earlier was the long-term success, the bigger picture, not like, hey, yeah, right now it's going to feel great if I go crush 6 workouts a week. If you've never worked out before, you're going to die.
It's a lot.
Don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like very minimal stuff every day, like running, push-ups, sit-ups, something like that. But if you're going to actually go to a gym and work out 6 days a week and you haven't done that before, you're going to burn out in the matter of a couple weeks and you're never going to do it again.
Yeah.
So
exhibit A.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Sorry, I need 1 second. You probably can't hear it because this mic, but my dog is going nuts in the other room. I'm just going to open the door for him. I think he got locked in.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. He just went, he was just barking for like 5-10 minutes in. I didn't want to interrupt anything, but
it's okay. I'm surprised my dog's not doing that right now, honestly. She's usually crying outside my door if it's closed.
Oh yeah, every time. But anyways, so what got you into sharing your story and sharing your podcast? Because I feel like that's something that's also kind of rare. Like people will kind of keep that to themselves a lot of the times for whatever reason. Like, I mean, that's your story, it's your choice, but it's just, I think it's awesome to see other people share their experiences, share their story, because it makes other people talk about it too.
Yeah. So for years, I've been like listening to podcasts, and I love listening to podcasts, and I like that there's so many different kinds out there for like whatever I feel like I want to listen to, comedy, dating, like whatever. And I've like toyed back and forth in my head. Like I was working with one of my friends like a couple years ago, and there was one podcast that like we loved listening to together. Like we would listen to it at work together, and we'd be like, we should start a podcast, but like what would we talk about? Just like shit, like offhand, you know, like whatever comments, but it's like always kind of brewed in the back of my mind. But I just like never felt like I had anything to talk about. And then as I got into this, like, you know, as I stopped drinking, I started finding more like sober content on Instagram or TikTok. There was like one podcast that I found it's like two women that it's called Seltzer Squad, I think. And they like talk about sobriety. They're both sober girls, whatever.
Isn't that funny
So
how when you stop drinking, you can start finding other people that stop
yeah,
drinking? Like it's just
yeah.
it's such a focus thing. Like, and I'm such a big
Hmm.
believer in like you can control your own narrative, you can control your own focus. And that's
Yeah,
like one of those things where, hey, I'm gonna focus on sobriety. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, oh, this guy's sober. Oh, this guy's, and you just kind of
Like
like keep learning from that.
I don't even know how it like how I don't know how. I don't know how I found any of these people that like I now like follow their stories or like whatever, like like their Instagrams, or even that one podcast I just said, Seltzer Squad, is still to this day the only like sober podcast that I've listened to. And I just like I love consuming that content. So I just feel like I said in the beginning of this, like there's no time, there's no like too early or too late to talk about it. There's no audience too big or too small. So like I feel like even if 5 fucking people listen to me talk about it, if there's like anybody like I said it in my first or second episode, like there were things that I needed to hear at a certain point of time in time. And if there's anything that like I say or people that I bring on say that can affect somebody in any way, like that's sick, you know?
Even if it's one person, if you
Even
change
if
the
it's
outlook
one
of one
person.
person, because
Yeah.
then you never know who that one person is going to change, right? Like
Right.
that's, I mean, that's like my big perspective on like the bigger picture of the question, how do
Hmm.
you change the world? One person at a time, because
Yeah,
one
totally.
person affects one person who affects one person. And it's just such a chain reaction. Like I think of some
Yeah.
of the most successful people, Jocko Willick comes to mind right now, just because
Hmm.
that was the most recent podcast I was listening to. And it's like, if you listen to him talk, like the people that kind of molded him, like those people are affecting all these other people that are have an effect on all the people that he's now affected. You know,
Right.
like another person that comes to mind is like Dave Ramsey. Like I listen
Hmm.
to his podcast all the time and he's
My mom
affected
loves
millions
him.
of people. Yeah, he's awesome. And he's affected millions of people. But then those millions of people tell their family, tell their friends, and like
Hmm.
all these people now are affected by the one guy. And
Yep.
I think there's just nothing cooler than that. Like there's just
Yeah,
it's awesome. So I
totally. And
totally
like,
agree. And I love what you're
yeah,
doing.
thank you. And yeah, like I that one podcast I just said, like I have a friend who stopped drinking exactly 1 month after me, and then she started listening to that podcast, and like she texted me the other day like really struggling with like her sobriety, like wanting to just like drink because like there was so much going on that she just like was stressed about. And then um she texted me later that day and was like, listen to a podcast, like I'm fine. I
That's good.
was like, I love that,
See, I feel like
you
you
know.
so like something like that, and you tell me here because I feel like you would know as well. I think you need to have a plan for a moment like that. Like hey, if
Yeah.
I feel like I want to drink, this is my plan. Like, I mean, my example would be instead of that, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go
Hmm.
work out for an hour. No matter what I'm doing, if I already worked out, if I feel like I want to drink, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour. Like,
Hmm.
what do you, I mean, what's your take on that?
So for me, sometimes it's that, like sometimes I definitely will use the gym as like a just like stress relief or like anxiety relief. Like it's definitely an outlet for me in that aspect. But specifically, if I'm like feeling like I either want to drink, and it's not ever something I feel when I'm just like alone or like anxious about something. It's more so when I'm in like a social setting and it's happening around me and I'm just like, fuck, like why I should be fitting in, like I should do this too. My thing is, and I've talked about this before on my podcast, is and it's just like a saying in like the sober community, I guess. I don't know. It's playing the tape. So like playing the tape forward. So like envisioning how I'll feel in a few hours, how I'll feel the next day, or even like a week from now when I look back and be like, I really shouldn't have fucking done that. Like I knew I deep
Mm.
down didn't want to do it. Um,
Again, thinking of the bigger picture.
exactly. And like I have like a journal entry from God, sometime in quarantine. I don't know. Again, there was a girl that I found on TikTok who is, she doesn't only post sober content, but she's pretty open about her like recovery. Um, she suggested it was like a journal prompt or something, like writing down, and this was something that she did, writing down, like, you know, you have like people that you look up to and like your inspirational people, right? Like,
Mhm.
what do they have? What is somebody that you want to be? And then write down how to do, like, how to be that person. What does that mean? Like, how do you get there? What is doing daily? How can you get one step closer to being that person? What are things that would hold you back from being that person? If there's something that you're doing or that you want to do that's going to hold you back, don't do it.
I like that
Don't do it.
breakdown a lot, because like
Yeah.
when you look at
That's,
that as a big picture, that seems like something so difficult, so hard, so
yeah.
like, wow, how am I ever going to get there? When you break it down into all these little steps, it's
Hmm.
actually not that bad. It's not that hard. If
Yeah.
you just do like one little thing at a time, before you know it,
Hmm.
you kind of look back and you're like, oh,
You're
like
like,
I'm here
oh,
now. This is
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's just like, and these are all things that like, I feel like this last year I've grown a lot, excuse me, like as a person. Like I've never had this mentality, you know what I mean? Like I've never thought of like a day ahead. Like I was in the moment, didn't give a fuck about anything, like whatever. So I don't know, even just having my, like that mentality stick with me for as long as it has, I feel like it's helping me get to that place. And I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's so cool. That's awesome. And like what you were saying too about the people that you look up to, like that's probably going to be you someday for somebody else, you know? Like, and I
Yeah.
think that that's so cool. Like that's why I always love when people like have a platform, they share their story, talk about like things that they've done, because you
Hmm.
never know, like your story resonates with some people in a way that nobody else's can. You know, like
Right.
I think oftentimes we have a lot of the same feelings, a lot of the same like,
Hmm.
the same emotions, but the way that your story goes can sometimes just perfectly align with that one person that can't find anybody else. And
Hmm.
I just think that's so special when you can find that, and you never know like who's going to be listening, who's going to be affected. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And that's exactly what I just said, like before, like when I started finding people who were putting out content that resonated with me, like I was somebody that needed to consume that. So like if somebody happens to stumble across little old me and hear something I say that like they needed to hear, that's great,
Mm.
you know.
So I now want to ask you, because I've never been able to really have this conversation before. How was figuring out how to create a podcast?
It's a great question. Um, for me, so you told me what you use, and I have um a friend who moved out to California. She started a podcast recently in like the last couple of weeks or months. And so I just reached out to her and I was like, hey, what do you use? Like, how do you do it? And she told me she uses the same one that you use. I don't know if I already said that, but I checked it out. For me, it didn't make sense.
Hmm.
um, and then I remembered there was a podcast that I've listened to for, I want to say a couple years, but I think it's really only been out for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But um, I use Anchor, right? And in Anchor, you can do like spot like ads or whatever.
Mhm.
And she had an ad for that app. And I was like, oh, that sounds easy. So then I went on and I was like, okay, I can figure this out. And then there's so many, I mean, it really, there's so many things that make it easy for you, like no matter what
Mm.
platform or system that you're using, like it's not as hard as it seems if
Yeah.
you really like do the work and figure it
Right.
out.
Again, just breaking it down step by step. I feel like
Yeah.
I did it the more difficult way at first. Now I use like a actual podcast, like host and provider. But at first I
Mhm.
made my own website because I had done that for my business. Like I was like, oh, I'll just make a website. That'll be easy. No big deal. And I did. But then trying to like, what's it called? Your RSS feed, trying to like
Mhm.
optimize that and create
Yeah.
that in a way. I was like running in circles for a little while. And I mean, obviously I eventually figured out because it aired, so it worked. But
Yeah.
it was like that, and trying to find like the mics and the mixers and trying to like just learn the different things it was kind of fun. Like I like learning new stuff like that, especially when you have
Mhm.
a goal. Like, hey, I want to have
Yeah.
my own show one day. Like it was pretty fun. I definitely would recommend, if anybody's gonna start a podcast that's listening to this, don't try and make your own website, even if you've done it before. Go use Podbean or Anchor or one of these other millions of friggin' sources that they have out there now, because it is
Right.
way easier.
They
And
do
like,
so much for you that you
oh
don't
my
have
God,
to
yeah.
do.
I hit one button and it sends it to every platform now, like
Yeah, it's great.
Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and Google Podcast. I mean, all of
Hmm.
them. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing before.
Well, when you've been doing this for longer than I have, like a couple months, right? Was it been over a year?
It hasn't been a year. I think I started this. This is like my 30th episode. So I think I've been doing,
Okay.
and I've been doing one-ish a week. So I think I started in like August, maybe
Okay.
September last
So
year.
those resources were there for you,
What do you mean?
like Podbean or Anchor or
Oh
something.
yeah,
Did you just not
absolutely. And
know
I
them?
knew of it. I knew
Oh,
what
okay.
they
You just
were
wanted to
too.
do it yourself.
Yeah, because I was like, well, yeah, because so you have to, for anybody that doesn't know, like Spotify does not actually hold on to your podcast. Spotify just plays it through what's called your RSS feed, which I forget. It's like something syndicating. Do you know what it
I have
stands
no
for? I
idea.
forget what it
No.
stands for, but it's something to do with like,
I don't even
that's
know what
what's
it's for.
actually hosting your episodes. And so when you hit play on Spotify, Spotify doesn't hold that data because that costs money to hold that data. So when
Yeah.
I saw all these sites and it was like, oh yeah, pay me $10 a month and we'll hold that data for you, I was like, why the fuck would I pay $10 a month to these guys to hold my data when I can make my own website that holds the data for me and I can do it how I want? And that was my mentality at it. But then I
Yeah.
realized there's just, oh, this is why you pay these guys $10 a month.
Yeah. I don't do didn't come across anything that I had to pay for.
Is Anchor for, maybe I, because I do like have more content like this. So I forget what it was. Like Podbean, I think had a limit. It was like you have to, after an hour or after like 20 minutes of recording, you have to pay whatever it was, or you can just pay
Oh.
$10 for unlimited for a month.
Oh, okay. Anchor has you can record on your phone or like on your computer or whatever. And if you're doing it on like a laptop or a desktop or something, you have 30 minutes.
Mm.
And then if you're on your phone, for some reason, you have 45. However, I like cut things up and edit it. You can start recording a second segment, no problem.
Oh,
You
okay.
still, you just have another 30 minutes that you can use,
It's just not a straight like run through.
Right. But you can edit it,
Yeah.
so
That
it
makes sense.
flows. I don't
That's
know.
pretty cool. So
Yeah.
overall, how do you like having your own show, having a podcast? Kind of fun?
It's fun. I mean, it's something that I look forward to doing. It's not something that like I just get to like chat about shit that I would want to talk about anyway.
Mm.
And you mentioned accountability earlier, and I feel like it's something that kind of holds me accountable too. Like, just like for my own, sobriety and whatever, like as I'm kind of navigating, like if I want to go to meetings or if I want to just kind of like do it on my own, or like as I'm making like sober friends, or like I have friends that are quitting drinking and like blah blah blah, as my life kind of like changes.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's cool to like, I like journaling or whatever, but I don't always want to just fucking sit down and write. I think this is a cool way to, it's like pictures, you know what I mean? Like you want to look back on memories. I feel like it'll be cool to look back on and like listen to like in the future,
Definitely.
you know,
Do you
just
ever
like,
like
yeah.
you just mentioned a couple things that made me triggered this question. Do you ever find yourself kind of like slipping and wanting to have a drink?
So I feel like I sort of said this at some point. Not on like a daily basis. Like it's not something that like I often think about like as I'm just going through like my day-to-day life. But like I just recently went on like a little like mini weekend vacation, right? I went to California, and like I had a friend ask me if I was going to drink when I went there. And I
And they
was
know the
like,
story, right? Like they know the whole.
yeah. And I was like, No, but then it got me thinking, like, it is a vacation, like it's not my real life, like kind of like what happens in Vegas type of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't really count if it's like vacation, but like again, you asked me like what I do in those situations. I just like played the tape. I was like, I'm only there for 4 days. I want to enjoy my time and remember it. And it was a weird situation. I talked about it on one of my episodes. It was fucking weird, but it ended up being a really, really good time. And I wouldn't change a thing about the way that it happened. I'm happy I didn't drink. Like there was the first night that I was there, I went out with this guy and he got beers with his food, whatever, like casual. And I was just like, it's like happy hour. It was like buy one, get one half off or whatever. And I was like, should I do that? But
You stayed
no,
strong.
stayed strong.
That's good. That's good.
And it was a really uncomfortable situation. If you feel so inclined, I think it's episode 6. I talk about everything that happened. It was like any normal person would be like, glug, 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 this is fucking weird. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a
yeah.
weird ass trip.
See, like
So
that's cool. Like that, I haven't got to that on your show yet,
mhm,
but that's see, like I feel like that's a really cool episode that could help somebody because it's like, hey, I remember listening to this one girl who was on the same situation and she didn't do it, so if
mhm,
she can get through it, I can get through it. You know, like
yeah,
I feel like that would be a good takeaway from that.
yeah. I kind of wanted to, so you have talked about how you don't drink just because you like don't like it. I listened, so like I said, I listened to your show and you said that you didn't drink for like 2.5 years and then you did. What was that? What's going on there?
No, so I pretty much just like I didn't get like drunk for a while and then I stopped drinking whenever we got Mozzie. Mozzie's like 2 years old now. I think I said like a
Okay.
couple years in the show and then I corrected
Hmm.
myself after
Oh, okay.
because I was like, yeah, I don't like I remembered Mozzie was only 2 years old and I was like,
Okay.
that doesn't add up. Because the day we brought him home was like I said, the last day that I had a beer in my hand, I was just thinking, why? Like
Yeah.
what is the
Okay.
point of this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. And then, so did you, I think you said it was like Christmas time. Did you have a drink at Christmas this year?
No, no.
Oh, are you sure? Did I make
Positive.
that up? Is that a fever dream?
So like I mean my wife's friends have like tried to almost pressure me into drinking a few times and I just
Oh,
like
and then you
just
didn't.
yeah I just say
Okay.
no, I'm good,
Maybe I
thanks.
like made that up in my head. I was
Yeah,
like,
no, I definitely ever since Mozzie came home I haven't since that day for sure.
okay. Well, fuck yeah. I don't know where. It's been a long day. Okay. I
It
listened to
happens, it
that
happens,
over 12 hours ago. I don't know.
it happens. So I got one final question for you. I like to ask this to everybody.
Okay. I'm scared.
Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself five years ago? Because I know how old you are.
5 years ago. That's, oof. 5 years ago, I was in a rough place. I actually, I have, like I said, I do like journaling sometimes. And this was like sort of a prompt that I gave myself. What would you tell yourself? I think it was like 4 years or 8 years in the past. What would you
Hmm.
tell yourself? If you could write a letter to your future self, what would it say?
Ooh.
So I've thought about this stuff before. Yeah, it's cool. Um, 5 years ago, this might get a little dark. Is that okay?
Free speech.
Okay. 5 years ago, I was in, how old am I? Okay. I was like definitely partying a lot and almost, I was like very close to the point in time where I entered into a pretty toxic fucking relationship. So I wasn't quite in the relationship 5 years ago. So if I could go back in time 5 years ago, tell myself anything, stay away from that motherfucker. That's what I would tell myself.
All right.
I learned a lot. Honestly, I learned a lot from that situation and it helped me grow exponentially. But if I could say anything, I would say, baby girl, stay
Don't
away from him.
don't do that. Yep.
Don't do that.
Well,
That's what I would
hey,
say.
thank you for coming on. Do you have any final
Yeah.
remarks you want to say? Anybody any words of wisdom for the sober community?
Words of wisdom. I'm not all that wise. But I guess just play the fucking tape, as I cannot hammer that home enough. Maybe that's just because it works for me, but play the fucking tape. I have one last word for you, Nick. I texted you this earlier, but you are fucking Aries, okay? That is your zodiac sign.
All right. And for anyone listening that listened to the episode I was interviewed, he's talking about I think 27, something like that. I got interviewed and she asked me, what is your zodiac sign? I had no fucking clue. So
Neither of you guys know.
yeah, here we go. I'm
You're an Aries.
Aries.
Yes.
Well, hey, thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Everybody that's listening, thank you so much. And until next time, take care.